Victoria here for about 175 years. My great-great-grandfather was the first child born in Fort Victoria. He was born here September 21st, 1851. And my ancestors came here and dipped into the Hudson's Bay Company. They came from the Holy Land, which would be Scotland, of course. And when they arrived here, shortly after they arrived, one of the brothers decided to jump his indenture. There's a ship loading in the harbor to go to California, so he got on that boat, ostensibly to go make his fortune, pan of gold, you know. But of course, being the quick-witted devil he was, once he got here, he realized there was more money to be made feeding people than there was looking for gold. So he started raising beef cattle and set the area that's now known as Irvine. Sometimes these thoughts come back and I remember what I was talking about. Every time they show up as a new idea, I got to look at so we're going to head over into the wilds of Chinatown, and then off to our left you'll see a bridge over there. So we're going to go over that bridge and that big sandy colored building over there. Come back along here. Harbour of airplanes, float planes that fly here. This building on the left here, these brick building on the left, this was McQuaid's ship Chandlery when I was a kid. They were a purveyor of materiality in the marine industry, you know, they sold everything to do with ships. This was a tremendous position port of entry here. I used to spend a lot of time. I started playing hooky in grade 2 and I had to find an art board by the time I hit grade 9, so I used to spend a lot of time hanging out there up in the sail loft. I love the smell of the sail cloth, you know. So this corner right here, I used to sell newspapers on the street corner here from the time I was 11 until I was 13, and at that time this was still a tremendously busy port of entry. Man, we had a lot of marine traffic in here. And so there were a lot of merchant sailors wandering around down here with way too much money in their pocket and far too much alcohol in their system. And there were several self-employed professional females down there, you know, enterprising young ladies. So it was a real education. Selling papers on the street corner down here. As we motor on through here, you look off to the kind of the left, that kind of the 11 o'clock position. Now, I don't know if that's standard time or daylight time. But you'll see a sculpture there. And what that represents is the coming together of the European culture and the indigenous culture. So the tulips are iconic of the European culture, you know. And it's the entanglement of the indigenous culture of the European culture. And those tulips inside the boat there, those represent the promises of wealth and prosperity that were offered by the Europeans, but you notice there's no state government community because it turns out those promises of wealth and prosperity they've been pulled in the water for the indigenous folks. So here we are in our hippy-dippy Chinatown. This is the oldest Chinatown in Canada, second oldest Chinatown in North America. And at one time, when this Chinatown was in its heyday, boy, the Oriental population here outnumbered the Caucasians. And boy, that's a point that was not lost to the Europeans. I tell you, boy, they got that big back at that time. They got as nervous as long-tailed cats sneaking under the rockets there when they figured that out. Now, we're going to wander around town later today. Here on the right, there's a little alley right there called Fan Alley. That's this little shopping vortex there that you get sucked into. And there's some pretty tricky little shops down there. And when you come back and see the gate of Harmonious Lucas here, you spend a truckload of money compared to this. exclusion order. And under the exclusion order, if you weren't European, you couldn't send your kids to the British public school system. So you're on the left. The Chinese community built their own school. They had to. So because of the exclusion order, that's why these little enclaves in Chinatowns and Jap towns and little Indias and that kind of thing sprung up. Because these kids have to cloister together in order to survive. And on the right here is our city hall. It's got a quick clock on top there. The clock, when this was ordered, there's a Victoria in Australia. And so this clock was ordered from England to go to Victoria. Guess which one it ended up in, buddy? Yes, sir. That thing ended up going down south. So it was delayed by about a year and a half. It's still put it right on schedule for it. When I was a kid, this is a lot bigger shipyard than it is now, but it's still an active shipyard. They do private business. They only do commercial traffic. So we'll take a goosey gander over here and see what's going on. And you look at the price of gas over here on the marquee today. What is it? I think they're giving it away. I think it's something like $1.97 a liter. Oh, that's cheap. The federal government just eliminated 10 cents a liter tax on that, so that would have been like $2.07 a liter. couple of weeks ago when the full-blown crazies were going at it, their diesel was $12 a gallon. This here was, it's just unbelievable how busy this was. I mean, there was a tank farm here for fuel, and there was a coal facility, a coal yard over here on the right-hand side. Inner Island coal was harvested up the island and brought down here by rail, and then it would be offloaded and bagged up, and then King and Gillespie Coal would sell it. You know, our house was heated by coal, as were most of the houses of the day. You know, you had a wood burning furnace, wooden coal furnace in the basement. These condos here on the left, if you want to buy one of these facing the water, holy Big Mac attack, dude. You better have a spare body organ to sell off to get the downstroke or down payment on one of these. These things start at across the way you'll see our Fisherman's Wharf. We're going to pass close to board the Fisherman's Wharf. That's a trippy little place. This place there called Barb's, and you get some other stuff, you know, fish and chips. And this is a hop-on, hop-off stop here as well. Oh, there's an old, look at that, there's a view, eh? That boat has just come over from Port Angeles. That's a car and passenger ferry. Oh, and there's a bomber taxiing up, getting ready to take off. We got a busy little harbor going on here. It's a pretty trippy place to live. When I was a kid, I had a rowboat, and I used to keep it down in the Inner Harbour here. And boy, I'll tell you, I had to have eyes in the back of my head to make it across this harbor where I kept run over by something. That totem pole you see there, that used to be about almost 3 times as high. And then somebody realized that, you know, if you've got airplanes flying into the harbor, they're probably not a good idea to have a big stick up in the area for the day. So the Transport Canada said, yeah, you know, you guys got to knock that thing down a bit. The Delta Ocean Point Inn. And we've got a nice restaurant here and a coffee shop. The coffee shop's got a view that just knocks your socks off. And this is a hop-on, hop-off stop. This driving, man, is like you have to pay attention almost all the time. And this is the hop-on, hop-off stop right here. Kids want to do this trip again. Straight ahead of us, you can really see what's going on over there at Point Hope Shipyard. We've got some big boats in there, man. Those are certainly not the biggest they had in there. They're getting ready for the fishing season that's coming up. So to give you an idea how big this joint is, since the breakup of the Soviet Union, Canada is the largest political landmass on the planet. There are a lot of people that will argue that, you know, and try to say that Russia is bigger, but actually Canada is the biggest, and that is a fact. In fact, there's a fact, especially when you look it up. And we are in the province of British Columbia. Columbia, which is the westernmost province of the whole works. To give you an idea how big this joint is, British Columbia is larger than the states of Washington, Oregon, and California combined. Larger by about 15%, which is pretty much the size of Idaho, man. And our provincial population here is about 4.5 million people. We do live on an island here. Boy, that is a point that gets lost on a lot of people, I'll tell you. This island is 300 miles long and generally about 50 miles wide. And if you'd like that in metric, that would be 300 miles long and 50 miles wide. The population of our little island here is, we're almost up to 1 million people here. 3 more people moved here, we'll be able to know. Almost half the population of the entire island lives on the very southern tip of the island, in what we call the Greater Victoria region. We have 455,000 people living in Greater Victoria, which may explain why the traffic here is starting to get to be a little testy now. The Greater Victoria region is made up of 13 municipalities. So we got 13 everything. 13 mayors, 13 councils, 13 police jurisdictions, 13 fire departments. I mean, getting things done here can kind of be like trying to get a rope to stand up. But we managed to get her done now. There is a hop-on, hop-off terminal here. You kids avail yourself of that. Victoria had a fire, because it was a, it was a stick-free shanty town. We had directors of fire that went through that you went down with. And as we get out here on the left, the ironwork on these buildings just came from San Francisco after the fire. Fort Victoria stood right here. I mentioned my great-great-grandfather was the first child born in Fort Victoria. And the building that he was born in sits right on the left here where Darcy's Pub was. Where that pub is. It's just so ironic to put a pub right in the segment of $20 right now. Rose-colored building on the right here. This was the first customs building built here for the British Admiralty. Because before we became the province of British Columbia, we were the colony of the British Admiralty. And this building on the left, this was the first big major structure for all the offices for the federal government here. Because this was a port of entry, the federal government had quite a presence here. And now this, you see the Lululemon on the left there, that is the most important building in all of Victoria, I'll tell you. Well, that's my go-to place. Because sometimes I feel like a woman. When I do, that's where I go shopping, but I'll tell you. Now, I'm not gambling my inner shit. I have money to do. I don't want to go shopping there. Look at the flower garden up here. Just like that. I like gardens, I like hybrids. I crossed a red hot poker with a forget-me-not. And I got a plant I call the painful reminder. Oh, we're not sure. We're not quite sure what we're doing here. Oh, we're camping. So here's our legislative assembly building. Now Victoria is the capital of the province of British Columbia, so of course our seat of government is located here. And as you kids know, we have a dictatorial democracy, so once every 4 years we get to elect a dictator of our choice. And then the little rats sitting there like a face off to go wide and not together on a campaign promises. So I can see them there very well. This building on the right front corner of the hot rod here was the British Columbia Coastal Steamship Company offices, which was run by CPR, Canadian Pacific Railway. It was their marine aspect. And as I've said several times, and I will say again, this was a tremendously busy marine harbor. There was a wharfage facility here that came right down off our right-hand side. It was a huge operation. And we had ships that came in here, steamers that sailed from all over the world, non-stop. They came directly here because this was the port of entry. And here is right into the operating facility for the Blackball, for the Coho Ferry. This is run by Blackball Ferry. That's the name of the company. It's not a medical condition. And you can see all these kids here are getting ready to go to the wild to Port Angeles. Got a bunch of kids that came over. I love riding that thing over to Port Angeles. Boy, I tell you, when it sounds just 3 whistles for engines to start, I know my vacation is starting again. Now what these little nut bars are doing over here is they're building a new ferry terminal for the zipper ferry. This building on the left-hand side, I gotta kind of pay attention. There's something going on. Some guys trying to kill us here. Okay. So this building on the left, this was the palatial home of a guy named Robert Nedrick. He started Gapco Paint, which stood for British American Paint Company, and they were the largest manufacturer of paint in the world at one time. All this land on the right-hand side, from this little building ahead of us, there's a hotel down here, there's this inn, there's a bunch of brownstones and stuff here. All this land was the footprint of the Capital Paint Factory. And it was a huge operation. And to put it in modern speak, you know, Capital Paint, they were not good stewards of the environment. They dumped a lot of toxic chemicals through the floor of the paint factory into the Inner Harbour there. So eventually the tree hugging whale diseconomies put the bums rush on them. And so they ended up packing up their stuff and moving to the prairie because apparently nobody cares if they hate the prairie. Now these buildings you see here, you want to buy one of these, they start at about $1.5 million. If you want to go around on the water side, you get for $3 million pretty quick. Growing up, while I was here, there were 3 little family-owned shipyards here. The one right here on the right was Cape Hornet. Here in the middle of the block was Center Shipyard. Down the end where the World Maritime Share is, that was Scenic Shipyard. These little family-owned shipyards, along with many hundreds of others along the east coast, they built the wooden boats that made up the salmon fishery in the Indian Ocean up inside that to the Brooklyn Peninsula. On the right is Fisherman's Wharf, and that's where the goose den. Excuse me. There's a little floating restaurant down there called Mark's. They've been voted the best fish and chips for the last 20 years in a row, I think. So if your belly button's chafing on your backbone, you can go down to bars and start scarfing down the fish and chips until you even want to slip around the bathtub. You just scratching the back of the notch or two. And there is a hop-on, hop-off terminal right here if you kids want to avail yourself of that. This building straight ahead of us. Washington State. That's the Olympic range. 18 miles across the straits. And just so that's where that boat we saw down in Inner Harbour, that's where it goes over there to Port Henry. And there have been 5 people that decided it would be a good idea to try to swim from here to Port Henry. I don't know why they'd want to do that, but apparently it's not far to get. Primary grass is going in there. It's called tall grass, and boy, the grass gets all that stuff gets up to 4 or 5 feet high. Coming up on the right here, this little yacht pond, I used to spend a lot of time hanging out down there when I was a kid. You know, the old retired sea captains would come down here and shoot the breeze at each other. And I'd come down here and every once in a while, but I went down on some great big walking ships down there. Just swing all the lines. And I just live in anticipation of the day he was going to put that boat in the water. Of course, he never put it in the water. This is where I had to be very, my wife had to be very close there. Many years ago, I built one of those model ships. Now I know why you don't put it in the water, man. It's not about floating, it's about built, man. This is mile 0. This is the official start of the Trans-Canada Highway. We get on this thing here and we travel about 4,500 miles. And eventually we'll end up at the other end there in St. John's, Newfoundland. And when you get to St. John's, Newfoundland, you'll see those kids have a mile 0 there. Because they think they're the start of the Trans-Canada Highway. So they're the back end of the dog. This is called Beacon Hill Park. Because prior to the establishment of lighthouses on the coast, they used to maintain beacon fires up on promontories of land to guide the ships in. Just up to the right there where that Canadian flagpole is up there. There was a beacon fire maintained up there. We're going to take a little gander through Beacon Hill Park here. Have a look at what's going on. Might see some peacocks. Might see some deer. Oh, somebody's out walking their dogs. There's not really any deer around. On the left here is the world's biggest watering can. It's our splash park for kids. When I was a kid, you know, growing up, that was not there, of course. What was there was a little splash pool, a wading pool, you know. It's kind of like this deep at one end, a little bit deeper at the other end. You could go down there and have a shout, splash boats. Everybody had a good time. And it was always packed in the summertime. And then somebody thought, you know, we're going to get all kinds of diseases that'll kill everybody, so she would take that out and put it in a splash park. Now nobody uses it. You never see any kids using that thing anymore. There's a Robbie Burns statue on the left-hand side there. Little golf putting green. Oh, this is the betting zoo here, and it's just opening. Let me look at the lineup. You can go and you can take the kids in there and you let them pet all the animals and you get salmonella and other kinds of disease, you know. You get farm animals. Look, here's you get the peacock. And this is a designated hop-on, hop-off flight here. Oh, look, oh, buddy, the peacock is showing off there. Putting on a little show for us. Muchly appreciated. Uncommon to see deer wandering around in here. These grasslands, this is more coastal native tall grass here. We had this stuff growing on our stead when I was a kid, you know. And to me, the grass was a jungle, you know, and it was up past my eyeballs. And one day I was out wandering around in the field and I ran into my grandpa. And Grandpa was crying, and I said, "Grandpa, what's the matter?" And he held up a piece of rope, and he said, "Well, I remember if I found a piece of rope or if I lost a cow." So I helped Grandpa back to the house. These are left here, not edible. Now, as we break out here, you're going to see the world's tallest totem pole. This thing is 127 feet, 8.5 inches. Look at that baby. That is the real deal, boy. That was carved from one tree. And my oldest brother surveyed the road to bring that thing out of the bush. That was carved by Mungo Martin and his apprentices. And I used to spend a lot of time hanging out down there in the carving shed when I was a kid. These little blue flowers you see there, aren't they just gorgeous? This is called Camas. That was this place was called before it was called Victoria. It was called Camasac or Camosa. And it's named after this place here. This was a vital plant for the indigenous people here. It was a source of starch. The camas grows from a bulb, and you can pick the bulb up and dry it out and then grind it up and you get flour from it. And so that was their starch, one of their starch sources. And when they practice sustainable harvesting, you know, so when they pick the bulb, you can split the bulb so that they would take part of the bulb and set off to walk across Canada to raise awareness for cancer, and unfortunately Terry was unable to finish his odyssey. His cancer came out of remission around Thunder Bay, Ontario, and then he was transported back to Vancouver for hospice care, and Terry was transformed into light. When young Terry started his awareness for cancer run, he figured if he could raise $100,000, he would be doing really good. Like that would be absolutely beyond the pale if he could raise $100,000. To date, Terry Fox Foundation has raised almost $1 billion. Good on you, Terry. Here on the right, this is the blue heron rookery here. It's one of the largest blue heron rookeries in North America. And anybody who thinks pterodactyls are extinct has never seen a great blue heron. beautiful. This park has gardens that will rival Butchart Gardens. South Park School on the left hand side. If we got any South Park fans, this is apparently where they go to school. It was built in 1895, if you can dig it. I know that because it says so right there on the front. Beacon Hill Park is about 150 acres. Actually, it varies in size from 10 acres to 500 acres, depending on who's doing the tour. My version is it's 150 acres, because that's what it is. So we're going to drop down into a little valley here. We're going to see St. Anne's Academy, and we're going to pass by what used to be St. Joseph's Hospital. That was the first hospital in Victoria. It was a Catholic operation. St. Anne's was a girls' school, or the Catholic girls' school. I used to spend a lot of time tomcatting around the fence line down here when I was a kid, trying to help those Catholic girls astray. And I never did experience a great deal of success with that, but I did get sprayed with mace an awful lot, which, that can become its own reward after a while, huh? So we're going to make a right-hand turn here, and cruise on up Humboldt Street. See the ground is quite a large operation here. I like St. Anne's Academy. And on the left is St. Joseph's Hospital. So the natural progression of things was, that the young ladies, they'd go to school at St. Anne's and then they'd graduate and they'd become nurses at St. Joseph's. And that's been turned into apartments. And there was a dormitory here. It's been torn down and turned into a retirement facility. Which housed the ladies. They became nurses. This is Rose Manor here on the left. It's a garden facility. There's about 104 units in there, I think. It's quite the operation. If we gain some elevation here, ahead of us you'll see the spire of Christ Church cathedral. And we're going to start close aboard that. That is also a hop-on, hop-off stop. It is a little bit bumpy. There and tour around. And they provide you with a headset for the recorded tour. We're doing the hop on, hop off. We just come in here like this, and then we hang in the hood. And then if there's anybody hopping off, it's here to do it. If there's anybody hopping on, they can do that. That would be a great name for this tour. Hop on, hop off. I'm going to have to run that by something. Oh, you're on the left is the YMCA. They're going to shut this down and build a new one. I'm not quite sure what's going on. There's kind of a lot of the original YMCA was not very far. It's just over one block down ahead of us, one block. There's kind of a lot of time there when I was a kid. I don't go to the gym anymore now. Now every time I feel like urge to exercise, I lay down until it passes. You cannot get out of shape just by practicing, man, not out of have to walk about 1,000 feet up to the gas. They're not vertical gain distance. And we used to go up there, but then the 300 meters, Tommy's got all excited. Decided to do a pollution planet. And it is worth checking out. Holy I'll tell you. The history of this place, you know, I could spend 20 minutes talking about the history of it. The chapters of its life, you know, and how it almost fell into dilapidation and then it was recovered. The family, the history of the family, oh my God, I'm telling you, just, you read it, boy, it's proof that money does not buy happiness. They were a dysfunctional lot, that's true, I'll tell you. And Robert Dunsmuir, he came here and mentioned the Hudson's Bay Company like everybody else. I mean, this guy did not have a pot, if you get my drift. And his job with the Hudson's Bay Company was to organize transportation, because everything moved by boat. You know, there were no roads, everything moved by boat. And so the Hudson's Bay Company had an interest in coal 60 miles north of Victoria in a town it's called Nanaimo. It's now called Nanaimo. It's called Newcastle. And so they would, the dignitaries of the Hudson's Bay Company would have to go up there to check on what's going on and interface with the dignitaries up there. And everywhere else they had to go, it was nothing but on board and water. And one day he was on a sojourn up there with the dignitaries. He was waiting for them to come back. He was talking to some of the locals, and he said, well, you know any good stories? He said, well, here's something to crack you up, man. You know, especially with Ron Burke. And so Dunsmuir understood that that was gold. So he went with him and found out where it was. Found out that there was no tunnel going to the state area. So he stayed the river. Robert Dunsmuir had more money than Bill Gates. He was the richest guy in the British Empire. He had more money than the king. And so he had this castle built for himself. And he never got to live in it. He was transformed into light before the castle was completed. And so there is a hop on, hop off stop here if you kids want to avail yourselves of this at any time. turn, right-hand turn, just up here, one walking head. Street, got construction going on there. So we're going to bypass that and go down. Victoria. We're very fortunate in Victoria, not only with streams and blossoms and time, and we have microclimates down the greater Victoria region, so we travel around for quite a few weeks. Some of the trees blossom and going into fruits. We're going to head down into, we're still in the city of Victoria. We are going to make a right-hand turn here. We're going to head down into the municipality of Oak Bay. And Oak Bay's trip is that they are more British than itself. That used to be their selling point. Not so much anymore. They're trying to shred that off, you know. Population, now I mentioned the population of Greater Victoria is 455,000, but that's spread over 13 municipalities. And it encompasses quite a distance from downtown. You know, we're talking going up probably 10 miles. Now this the municipality of Oak Bay here, their population is over 16,000 people. Not a lot. You won't see, like you see on the left there, we just got a 3-story walk-up. That's kind of the maximum height of the buildings in Oak Bay. They're pretty nippy about new construction here. Celebration here called Oak Bay Days. Because it's British, their whole thing is called the Teacup Party. And we have a parade going with plates and everything looks like teacups and teapots and tea cozies and all that kind of thing. And it's always a very popular event. coming up on the left-hand side, there's right on the corner here, this trippy-looking Tudor-style building. This used to be called the Reliving place, restaurant. It's owned by a guy named Ken. And they did just a land office business, you know, serving traditional English tucker. And they were old. And so some guy that was a chef from Vancouver saw this and looked at the books and thought, wow, you guys really do a great business. So he ended up buying that business off Ken. And he went in there and changed everything. And he totally lost his business. Like, he was just struggling to keep the doors open now. These trees, these are called Gary Oaks. They're just gorgeous, aren't they? Gnarly looking things. These things grow all over southern Vancouver Island. They are a protected species, God help you. So as we look out here at this little anchorage here, that little island you see out there is called Jimmy Chicken Island. Probably became called Jimmy Chicken Island, I have no idea, but I'm sure there's a great story behind it. And the boats you see anchored out here, I mean this water's looking pretty mild right now, but boy, this can turn into an absolute maelstrom when we get a southeaster flowing in here. And every year there's 2 or 3 sailboats get sunk out there, and of course once they sink, everybody disavows any knowledge as to who owns them, and so it falls on the municipality to salvage them and dispose of the carcass. So that's setting up quite a controversy in the Oak Bay Council meetings right now. We're trying to figure out how to pass legislation to try to curb that. Here, these wolves. We do have wolves on Vancouver Island. You don't usually see them this far south. There was a wolf living on off to our left is Discovery Island. There was a wolf living on that island, a lone wolf. Must have been a pretty horny little bugger, I'll tell you. No girly wolves around there. Now this is the Oak Bay Marina, and this is a hop-on, hop-off stop as well. And there are some seals down here that you can feed. They're gravitationally challenged, as were my pigeons. And there's a little coffee shop here. Keep my boat, I had a trimaran, 25-foot trimaran, and I used to keep it anchored out in the harbor there. So off to our left, there's 2 islands. The left one is Discovery Island. The left one is Chatham and the right one is Discovery. They're named after the ships that George Vancouver used when he came here to do mapping. George Vancouver, after whom this island is named, as a matter of fact. there's somebody that lives in this building. This hop on hop off bus is just the absolute bane of their existence, man. They just, every time it stops here, they just freak out. They come out and they put up no parking signs and no stopping signs. And our garden people, they built the mansion here, and on the right is the Royal Victoria Golf Course. Now this property is up for sale. I think it's $48 million. Sotheby's has got this on the market for. I put in an offer on it, but apparently they wanted $46 million. But they didn't accept my offer. Just out for a bike ride. This golf course is beautiful too. This is one of the nicest, well, in all the golf courses. Now, you get to the experience level where you would remember Betty Crocker. This house on the left, that was Betty Crocker's house. Now, of course, it wasn't Betty Crocker. But she kept that place there, and you come up in the summertime vacation, and have a big deal of it. This golf course, I have played this golf course. This is a par 79. And I played this thing, and I shot an 81, which I thought was pretty good. And then it was seen it first. You know, they were politicians then. And so their interest was to really find out what was going on here. So they came to a fact that Quadra would take his ship and sail north and see if they could find prove it was an island by going that way. And Vancouver would take his boats and travel south in this body of water to see after west. As he did travel south, he traveled north, but he was going through this body of water. And if they met up, they knew it was an island. And if they didn't meet up, then they'd know that it wasn't an island. And they spent a whole season doing that, 9 months. And they met on the inside passage at a place about 150 miles north on the island here, where the river, what is now called Campbell River. And they proved that this really was an island. And this, after that, it was called Quadra in Vancouver, New Mexico. Lake on that for many years. For about 75 years after that. Eventually, the British were dropped the Quadra Port. On our right here is Cemetery, Cross Cemetery. And, you know, as I mentioned, this body of water here can get pretty blasted right now before it turns into an absolute maelstrom. And in the wintertime, all this material you see there, this gravel, this is all man-placed material. Prior to this riprap being put in here, oh, nice and clear on the right-hand side. Good morning, sir. Oh, yeah. Want to come home with us? You got a bottle of wine that wants to eat. So prior to all this riprap being put in here, we would have storms that would come in here, and the storms would go up and flood right to the graveyard. And so eventually they placed all this material, the gravel is called riprap. You know, sleeping pieces now they're called cages. And when they originally placed all that riprap in there, you could not see the cages. They were completely buried by riprap. And when we started that, I said to my wife, you know, I give that 25 years, something about fixing that totem pole before it falls down. Because I've said that for years, you know. I'm sure a lot of other people did too. So finally, in the year 2000, on the first day of business in the new year, I went into the parks office there to talk to the parks manager to see about getting something done about fixing the totem pole. And I walked into the office there, and lo and behold, the parks manager was a guy I'd gone to school with, Mike Matthews. He and I jumped around a lot when we were kids. And he said, "Wow, what a coincidence." He said, "You should come in and mention it." That's been on my mind too, you know. And so we got together with some co-seniors kids and we started a campaign called Rise Again. We formed an organization. And we started this campaign called Rise Again. And we managed to raise enough money to have that totem pole taken down and refurbished and put back up there. And that was years ago. It started to deteriorate again, pick up the leaves, but now they're talking about taking it down, which I think is a real mistake. But apparently nobody's consulting me about that. Traffic circles kind of lumpy. Those traffic circles are a great idea. This area here is just a catch from Fairfield and where you can see park is there's no commercial activity allowed in the park, and there used to be festivals in here that festival societies would raise money for, and there were some large food companies and other companies that would sponsor these things, and in return they would get to put up a tent, with their name on it. And then some T.W. Kissikami got on the bandwagon and said, well, that constitutes commercial enterprise, and so you can't do that. And so it's been disallowed, and so there are no festivals in the park anymore. I'm telling you, man, these T.W. Kissikami, they just kind of make this scratch my head sometimes. We're going to be arriving back to get the entrance here. Oh, this on the left here, this is Totem Park. These are not original totem poles. I mean, they are totem poles, but the originals that were in this park when I was a kid, they now reside in the Museum of Anthropology in Vancouver at the University of British Columbia. And this building on the left here, this is a real Coast Salish longhouse. This is not out of an IKEA kit. This building was disassembled from an abandoned village up the British Columbia coast and assembled here. us. Hope you had an enjoyable time, kids. If you didn't talk your ear off, or find any ears laying on the floor up there, we'll send it back to you. And if you enjoyed your tour, and just to express your appreciation for that in a monetary form, that would be greatly appreciated. Hope you had a good time, kids.